Good evening. Our topic tonight is the School Reform Act that was enacted by the last session of the legislature, commonly known as House Bill 940. Our panel tonight consists of Mrs. Rossi Kingery, the principal of the Green Street Elementary School, who has been principal, I believe this is her third year, but I could be mistaken. And the other guest is Henry Royse of radio station WCLU, who is a member of the school-based decision-making, which is going to be the emphasis of our topic tonight. The school-based decision-making is commonly referred to as site-based management and has many people who are very much in favor of it and some who have criticized it. If you have any questions concerning the school-based decision-making, be sure and call them in at telephone number 651-8341, and we will have the panel answer them. The Site-Based Decision-Making Council at the school is one of two in the Glasgow Independent School District. The Green Street Elementary School has one, as well as the high school. But tonight we're dealing with two members of the council for the Green Street School. And the first question I have is for Mrs. Kingery. I would ask her to give a brief history of what brought on the School Reform Act. Ms. Kingery.
Thank you. Good evening. Glad to have everyone with us. I'd like to reiterate, if you have questions, feel free to call, whether or not they have to do with council making or any other part of the Kentucky Education Reform Act. We'll answer the very best that we can. Citizens of Kentucky said that there were some inequalities in our school system. It wasn't fair. Some school districts had more money, some had less. Many of the things that we were doing were not correct. Lawsuits were brought. We went all the way to the Kentucky Supreme Court, and that really was the beginning and the reason that we had the Kentucky Education Reform Act of 1990. Has some very positive things. I feel like that will come from that. I still even have some questions, so I'm sure that as a public, you also do have questions.
Essentially, what is the purpose of the new act?
The new act, in essence, everything that we do from school-based decision-making to primary school to assessment of students, the ultimate thing is that we improve the school environment to improve student achievement. That's the ultimate thing, is whether or not our students do better in school. They become students that can participate not only within our state, but also from a global aspect. That's the main thing. The whole essence of it is that we're making policy, we're doing things to help improve student achievement, the baseline.
Mr. Royce, how did you get involved?
Well, Mr. Barrickman, certainly being in the news business, I was aware of the changes going on with the Kentucky Education Reform Act. I have a son who is in the second grade at South Green Elementary, and when all this began to come about, certainly as a parent, I was very interested in seeing that not only for my son, but for the school system that I came through, with such sweeping changes and the potential for such sweeping changes. I was very interested in I guess, becoming a part of the council. I guess there's a certain thrill in being on the edge of history, something the whole nation is watching. I am an elected parent representative. Myself and Jane Simmons are the two parent representatives that are on the council. There are 3 teachers, and Ms. Kingery serves as the chairman of the Site-Based Decision-Making Council at South Green. So this is a process whereby we are nominated from the floor at a PTO meeting, and then after the nominations are made, there is an election, a secret ballot type of election. And so, I guess to answer your question, that is how I actually wound up on the council. But my interest, certainly with so many sweeping changes, it was very interesting to me.
Mrs. Kingery, how were the teachers selected?
Well, first of all, I think maybe we better go back to the beginning process. A faculty at a school has to, by a 2/3 vote, they have to say, we want to even enter into site-based decision-making or school-based decision-making. And then they are nominated also, either from the floor, or it can be a written nomination. Teachers have to say, I will serve, even, after they're nominated, they have to say that. And then it's also done by majority vote. We have 3 teachers. There are 3 at our school. They are Joanne Toll, Ann Bertrand, and Mary Elliott. And so they elect their own representatives just as parents elect their representatives. And the council, of course, then is comprised of 3 teachers, 2 parents, and 1 administrator, the principal or head teacher.
Isn't it true that ultimately, by a certain date, I think 94, that all of the schools in the system are to have councils?
Okay, it's 96, but
96.
Those dates, I get confused on those too. 1996, that's correct. By this year, the law mandated that only 1 school system within the district had to be school-based decision-making, but of course we have 2. But by 96, all schools must do this. That's correct.
And I believe, Mr. Royse, that the Barren County system had 1 school under the system last year.
Yes, sir, they did. I think we're very fortunate here in that when we went through our initial training at the Gaines Center up in Jefferson County, the law said that 1 school in the district had to be site-based, and many school districts across the state, or several at least, were required to appoint 1. If there was not 1 that had elected to go site-based by this point, then 1 had to be appointed. And so here in the Glasgow city system we had 2, and then last year we started with, was it Eastern? It's either Eastern or Austin Tracy that started last year in the Barren County school system.
I think it was Austin Tracy.
Yes.
What would you define as the school-based decision-making? What
Okay.
does it encompass, Mrs. Kingery?
It is shared decision-making. Now let me emphasize that, shared decision-making, whereas we make policies, again, that relate to how can we improve our school environment for our students. That's the baseline. Everything we do, everything that we think about, we're just establishing some policies, and it's a shared decision-making, and we do that by consensus.
Now, was the council established before the school year started or after?
It was started before. We started in this during the summer.
July the 1st.
Right,
Our
that's
first.
correct. And of course we started initially with training. This is a very new endeavor, a new endeavor statewide, and we felt like we needed a lot of training. Our school board saw that we received proper training and that we'll also receive some follow-up training, I think. They've been very good to understand that it's a new adventure, challenge, and we all need some training. And as Henry said, we did go to the Gaines Center, and they were very good with providing us some ways that we needed to train to be an effective council.
That was in Louisville?
Yes, sir. It's actually the Jefferson County school system has been in a skeletal form on the site-based mode of things for 4 or 5 years, and they have been operating the Jefferson County school system in sort of a site-based fashion. They have a lot of materials and have a lot of experience in determining things like rules for consensus, in determining how council should operate, and they certainly it's a valuable asset as the whole state made an attempt to conform to KIRA, to have them already being into it in a similar fashion so that we could all begin the process with some organization.
When did you go to this training school?
It was about the middle of June, I believe it was. The dates escaped me, but we were there for a Wednesday and a Thursday and a part of a Friday session, and it was very, very good. It was conducted in part by the State Department of Education and conducted in part by staff and faculty with the Jefferson County school system.
That leads me into my next question, Mrs. Kingery. Knowing a little something about the State Department of Education, have they been a help or a hindrance in regard to the new conception of school councils?
Okay, as you know, and I'm sure as people have read, a lot of things in the State Department are in a little bit of disarray and upheaval and changes. I don't think they've been a hindrance. I wouldn't say that. They've been a help in that they send us lots of material. There's a hotline number that we can call if we need help. And so I think they have been helpful to a certain extent. They are offering more and more training. They also have started a little newsletter that's sent around district-wide. It's called The Forum. We do a lot of, I know next week at Western Kentucky University, they're going to have a session where school councils can go and learn from each other if you choose to do that. They're going to have these at intervals, and those things will be helpful because you learn from others.
Have they sent any guidelines that they have made mandatory?
Guidelines that are mandatory. They're pretty much, we go by the law as it was written, not any that they have mandated, and a lot of things there aren't any clear-cut answers, and it's an individual school thing, but then that's part of the law. That's the one reason it said, who knows best what, South Green needs or Glasgow High School, those people that are in that school. So it's not a lot of things mandated from the state, and I think that's good in a way. I think that they would help us in any way that they possibly could. Of course, we're still at a learning stage, and I feel very good about it and very positive. I think that it will work, and again, that's one purpose of the law, was to put the, not power, but the decision-making back into local schools instead of state mandated.
Now, can you tell us a little bit about the financing of the system in your school?
Okay, clarify that question. The financing of the actual school-based decision-making council?
Yes.
The board, of course, paid for our training. There's not really any monies that are set aside specifically for that. We received a budget just like any other school in our district, that's whether they're school-based or not. That does not really play a part in the amount of money that you receive.
Well, is there any limitations on the amount of money you can spend?
Yes, sir. We are within a budget. This year, Dr. Tennant did ask that now this was not school-based decision-making. This was just each principal was asked to submit a budget. But, of course, this next year, part of our board policy does say that as a school council that we are to do a budget. But again, our board has been very cooperative, and they've said since we started in July, just learning, they've granted us a waiver that said we did not have to take on that responsibility this year. There are certain responsibilities that you can choose to take, certain ones that you can say, I'd rather wait on those. Budgeting is one we really were supposed to handle, but there again, with us just getting into the process and also the high school, I know that the principals this year are handling the budgeting. But I can see that this next year, we'll get to do that.
I think it's important to note, Mr. Barrickman, at this point of the conversation, that a lot of the things that make this exciting are also, I guess I don't want to use the word scary, but a lot of this has happened very, very quickly. Mm-hmm. And just a little bit of the way the cart and the horse arrived. Of course, the State Board of Education, the State Department of Education said that all school systems will comply with CARA and with site-based. Yet, rather than mailing the Glasgow City School Board the guidelines by which they could do that, the Glasgow City School Board had to write their own policy
Right.
of how site-based decision-making councils would be set up. There was no, or not very much input from the state as to how that this would be done. And you take that one step further, at South Green on our council, we are writing policy by which we will operate. There was no packet in the mail one day that said, here's how you do it, either that went out to the central office or that came to South Green. The state has said you must do this, but they have not really, I guess, handed down a concrete way by which we should do it. So the board, in conforming to the Department of Education, wrote their site-based policy. The South Green Council, as the Glasgow High School Council, as Eastern, as Austin Tracy, must write the policy by which they operate as a council and submit it to the board. So this is all very new, and there are a lot of things that aren't totally related going on at once.
Mm-hmm.
I take it from your remarks that the council has adopted a policy for the Green Street Elementary School for this school year. Is that correct, Mrs. Kingery?
Yeah. You have to write a policy for almost everything that you do. Now, we're getting into your expertise into writing laws, but we have to write a policy even on forming committees, on our meetings, on agendas, we'll have to write a policy, for instance, if we choose to take on the responsibility of working with curriculum. We'll have to write a policy concerning how we're going to work with that curriculum. So all new councils across the state are spending a lot of time in writing policy, setting down that format for for all councils to come. When will you have meetings? Where will they be conducted? Who will, of course, the principal chairs the meeting, but what if the principal isn't there? Who will take care of that? How do you establish committees? Those are the things that we're working through right now. I think the high school is a little bit farther along than we are on their policy writing. They do have an attorney on their school council, so that may be a plus. But you have to be careful about that because you're establishing policy not only for the council this year, but for years to come. So a lot of our time has been used in policy writing.
While at the same time having to function as a council. As quickly as we determined when we were going to meet and where, then we had several things to take care of at the beginning of the year with personnel and other things that we needed to function as a council, while at the same time not having all the policy in place by which to function.
Well, have you written and adopted certain policies?
Yes, sir.
Yet?
Yes, we have.
Give us an example.
Okay. Gee, he's got the hard questions tonight, hadn't he? Well, one of our policy was on election of parents and election of teachers. Okay, that was in the board policy, our school board policy, but we had to elaborate on it a little bit. For instance, because we have a PTO, our policy concerning election is different than the high school. They don't have a PTO. So they had to write theirs a little bit differently. Okay? Also, we had to set up our meeting times. We're working now on the policy concerning committee formation. Is that not the one we're working on now?
Yes, we're working on that. And code of ethics we're working on.
Right. And even on policy adoption, if for instance, Wednesday, we meet this Wednesday, we look at our policy for committee formation. Do we adopt it then? Or do we wait until the second reading? All of those things, just like a mini school board, they have different types of policies. So we're working through all of that. We also have to adopt a policy on one of the functions of the council is that they consult a principal when there's an opening within the school. Let's say we're going to hire a teacher. They serve as sort of consultants. Ultimately, it's the principal that makes the decision, but, how are we going to work that out? Do they want to be part of the interviewing process, or, we have to work that out. Have to have a policy on if they need to replace the principal. And so there are all kinds of policy writing that needs to go on. We've been spending a lot of time with that.
Any policy, or once a policy has been adopted by the council,
Yes.
is it submitted to the board that is the school board, for the district, for its approval, or do you have to do that?
No, you don't have to do that. We chose to do that, to let Dr. Tennant read it. Also, we'd like for you to read it to make sure that the legality is okay. And also, we just think that's common courtesy.
Well, the reason you're referring to me to read it
Yes,
is that I am normally the attorney for the school board.
That's correct. I assumed everybody knew that.
Well, I don't know that that's public knowledge because I don't meet with the board every time they
Okay.
meet. Now, when you have a meeting, do you, I know that it has to be open on most matters, but do you ever go into executive session?
Yes. We operate under the same open meeting laws that apply to any type of meeting. And we have,
Sunshine law.
yes, sunshine law.
Now, when it comes to, well, before we get to that, how long do the council members serve? For what term are they elected?
They're elected for 1 year. They can serve for up to 3 consecutive years. That's part of our district policy.
Now, suppose you have a vacancy on your faculty for next year, or even somebody resigns or dies or something this year. What does the council do, if anything, in regard to getting a replacement?
Okay. Do you want, Henry, you want me to answer that, or you want to answer it?
Well, you answer it from the standpoint of
Okay, from the standpoint,
over the
all right.
names, yes,
First of all, our superintendent, Dr. Tennant, would give me a list of applicants. I also have a list. I would review those. And as a principal who very much likes to keep their council alerted of what's going on, at our council meeting we would talk about the opening, would probably review the candidates, talk about those a little bit. Now this summer we did have that situation. The council at that time, since we were just newly formed, didn't have a lot of our policy intact. It was a particular grade level opening, the position was. They felt like that the interviewing process, that they would like to feel free to come if they wanted to, but also I asked that the teachers of that particular grade level that would be working with that teacher in a team, they were going to do some team teaching, that they do a majority of, or help with the interviewing process. So again, it was shared decision making. At some of the interviews, some of the council members came, but the ultimate decision now on hiring still rests with the principal. They're just sort of an advisory capacity as far as that goes. But the council does hire the principal if there is a vacancy. Just a little funny note, when all of these laws first came out, someone said, oh gee, that means everybody has to have a new principal, because very specifically there's a law that says school councils decide that, and I said, gee, I hope not. The parts of the law were a little radical, but maybe not that radical.
But as I recall, that is limited to names that are submitted by the
Yes, sir.
superintendent.
Yes, sir. But again, if they keep submitting the list and the council says, well,
no, he's got to
keep-
resubmit. He's
that's
got to
right.
resubmit more names.
That's right.
As I recollect, 3. At
Okay.
least 3.
Right. Uh-huh.
At least 3. Let's talk a little bit about curriculum. Who decides that? Henry?
Well, curriculum is one of the, there are several functions of the council that are mandatory that we must undertake. We must hire the principal if the position becomes vacant. We must advise the principal on selection of personnel for the school. There are 22 other optional areas that the council can get into if they so choose. The council, in part of its policy, can declare that yes, we want to undertake curriculum as one of our functions.
Pardon me, I understand
Yes,
we have a question. We'll come back to
all right.
the curriculum.
In the ungraded primary, how is a student's level of learning measured?
Mrs. Kingery, did you understand the question?
In the ungraded primary, let me repeat it because I want to be sure. In the ungraded primary, how is the student's level of learning measured? Was that the question? Okay, good question, because we haven't touched on ungraded primary, but that I know a lot of people have questions about that. And in fact, I had just pulled today because I thought the information, I thought, gee, some people may ask that. The ungraded primary, they will be receiving progress reports every 9 weeks. Now, they're progress reports. They're not report cards. It's a little bit different. Also, we have a lot of conferences with the parents, and we use from our skills continuum that list all of those skills that a child should have mastered at a certain level. And we do that. It's a checklist type thing. So therefore, you know exactly what your child has learned, what he or she has mastered, what they still need some work with, and what maybe they're not ready to learn yet. And it's more of a checklist thing and a progress report than an ABCDF. That's one of the main things concerning the ungraded primary, is that we don't emphasize failure. We don't emphasize what you're not doing. We emphasize what you are learning.
Define for the listening audience what an ungraded primary is.
Okay, we're going to shift gears, which is perfectly okay. Ungraded primary, it has two different connotations. Ungraded means that there are no grades as we traditionally know them, A, B, C, D, F, but you have a progress report, whether or not the child is able to read, whether or not they're able to do certain math skills. And it's more of a report than a letter grade. So there aren't any grades. That's ungraded or non-graded. Also in the ungraded teams or situations, children aren't first, second, or third graders. Now that's what we're doing at South Green. I know at some schools they're doing maybe first through second. I think in the county they may even have K through 2 or something like that. We don't talk about you being in a certain grade. You're just in a certain home base, and they're all learning what's developmentally appropriate for them, for each student. It's not based on first, second, or third grade material, because you have some children maybe in first grade that can learn some second grade material. Then you've got some children in third grade that maybe need to work a little bit on second grade material. So you don't have grades in that you don't have letter grades, and you don't have grades in that you don't have first, second, third grade.
I think the ungraded primary is one of the most interesting and
He
exciting
likes
parts about Kara, because of the fact that I don't know how to put it in any simpler terms. There is, as we all went to school, if someone is held back because they're not ready to go on to the next level, that's something that, whether it's fair or not in society, that's something that has a tendency to hang with that person. At that age level, first grade, second grade, third grade, I'm really excited about the fact that we will not hang that sign on a young child's neck that they, and to use the rhetoric they might use in the classroom, that they flunked first grade, when all that really was the problem is that they did not read on the second grade level until perhaps November of their second year in school. So while I suppose it is a very different concept, the potential to take this social stigma away that in many cases is linked to strictly maturity, which is something that you cannot learn or be taught or inherit at a certain level. I really am excited about the potential that the primary has to take that stigma away, plus, as Ms. Kingery alluded to, accentuating the positive.
We have another question, I understand.
Haven't caught all of the answers, but the councils, I understand, are just operating in South Green and the high school presently. Is there a plan to initiate them in the other schools in the system as well, and what kind of coordination will exist between all of the schools once those councils are in place?
Ms. Kingery, you have an answer for that one?
I sure do. Each school, before 1996, the other schools, the faculty will make that decision. 2/3 when the faculty says, you know, we want to go to site-based decision making, and 2/3 of them vote that way, that's totally up to individual schools. Until 96. In 96, they don't have any choice. Everybody has to go. Presently, what we're trying to do to work to learn from the high school, and I think also they'd like to know a little bit about what we're doing what's going on. We went out last week, is that right, Henry? To their meeting to see what they're doing, and then also we're going to invite them to our meeting. And again, you know, we're just trying to work through some of these things together. Of course, course, many of the decisions that they make are related to high school students and would not relate to elementary students at all, and of course that would be the same for us. And again, I'd like to reiterate, that's one of the very positive things about school-based decision making. People within that particular school community who know best what is right for their students are now making those decisions. They're not mandated by the board, they're not mandated by the state, and it's the teachers and the parents within that school that basically now are making some of those decisions, some of those policies that say that the school will operate in a certain way.
And while the law says that not everybody has to do it till 96, I think it's positive that several schools in our community are jumping ahead and saying, you know, if we're going to do this, let's get a good grasp on it. Also, with respect to the primary, which we were talking about, it's next year that all
That's
schools
correct.
have to
92,
begin the
93.
ungraded primary, which is a vast
Undertaking.
to say the least. And I'm proud that at South Green we have the faculty and administration and staff support to go ahead, and parental support too, I might add, to go ahead and start something that everybody has to do next year.
How many students do you have in an ungraded primary unit?
Okay, let me do a little quick math, okay? About 92 students are involved. Again, this was something in the spring, let me give you a little history on this, that we talked about as a faculty. And I said, you know, this is a new concept. You're going to have different age level children together. It's sort of like the one-room school concept to a certain extent. We're going to take in some students within that primary group, what we call our special needs students. We're going to work with them. We're going to do a lot of team teaching, working together. Think about it. If you think you'd like to do it, if you think you'd like to attend some extra in-services and spend a little extra time, let me know. And we'll see if we've got a group that would like to tread the water, step out, you know, and see if we'd like to do this or it's something that would be good for our students. So they did some reading, they did a little bit of informal training and brainstorming, and I had a group of teachers that said, we'd like to try this. And I can say they totally were committed to it during the summer. They worked most of the summer, they've worked most of this year, and then there's sort of a ripple effect. Many of the things that they're doing now, the other teachers are doing. It's been very successful, and they see that it is a positive type of teaching for children. And so we're having a lot of team teaching and a lot more of students being active learners, not passive learners, and learning things that are important to them. And for instance, in reading, we're reading books, not necessarily Alice and Jerry and that sort of things, but the type of reading that children like to do in magazines and just reading. A big emphasis, lots of thematics and that type of thing.
Normally, how many students would you have in a room, and normally how many teachers?
Okay, it's still about the same ratio. Each primary teacher has about 23, and I've got some first grade teachers that have maybe 18, some that have 22, so it's about the same ratio as far as that goes. It's not overbalanced.
You say there's team teaching. Now,
yes.
How do you manage that? If you've got one teacher in one room, how are you managing this team teaching?
Team teaching, sometimes there are two teachers in a room with a group of students, or sometimes they go into the cafeteria and several rooms are together and they're doing an activity, or they go into the music room when it's available and do activities together. Now this is school-wide. This is just not the primary. I have a lot of team teaching that goes on at South Green. They do a lot of working with children in groups.
So your team teaching is not confined then to
No, not at all. And many of the other things that they're doing, the different teaching strategies, are not confined to the primary group. They certainly are not. Many of the other teachers are trying some new teaching ideas, and they're seeing whether or not they're comfortable with it, and they're saying, gee, this is pretty good. They're excited about it, and that's important. If you're excited about teaching, and it carries over to the students.
And what's the reaction of the students? You've got children down
Henry
there.
can
What's the
address
reaction?
that.
That's
What I have heard from my own child and from other parents who are involved in the primary and who are involved in school in general, they're very, very excited about it. Speaking from my son, he's very proud that he's in the primary. I mean, and that is a new thing. A lot of the learning opportunities are different than last year, or the ways that it's all presented, very different from last year. And yet, at the same time, the kids are excited. It's not like, gee, I have to get up and go to school today. It's more like, this is what we're going to do today, and it's very, very exciting. There are concerns. I have, as a parent representative on the council, I have heard some concerns about the primary.
That's my next question.
Okay,
So go
all
ahead.
right. Well, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to
No,
ruin the
that's
segment.
fine. You're
Mr. Bergman.
anticipating me.
One concern, I guess, is that the different age levels. There are young children who come to school who maybe are a bit intimidated because a third grader who reads fairly well, I guess it's somewhat intimidating if you cannot read at all. I think we've discussed that before at council meetings, and I think that's a situation you have if it was a room full of first graders, and we're still, as of yet, very early in the school year. And so this particular concern or problem, while certainly it is a concern, you certainly don't want a child to be trying to learn under intimidating conditions. It is something that I feel like that as time progresses, we have good teachers at South Green working on the primary. The most interesting thing about the primary, and it sort of brings to light how fast Kira has hit the ground running, is that the state said, we're going to have to get into this primary, but they have yet to really say exactly how it's going to be evaluated. So it's the wisdom of the instructional staff right now doing the best that they know to get this primary going, while at the same time all of the evaluation processes have not yet been written. So in other words, that's, I guess, a concern of the primary, is making sure that everything we're working on now is in compliance with the state when they decide what they think is in compliance.
I believe we have another question.
Would you please explain site-based decision planning and all how it affects the schools and the children?
Ms. Kingery?
Okay. Site-based decision. May I read something from the law? Is that okay?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. This isn't our script, so people won't say, ooh, I don't want to turn them off. The very purpose of a school council is to set school policy, and let me emphasize that. That's all that a school council does, set policy, to enhance the student's achievement. I think, I need to emphasize that. That's our whole little purpose. We're not out to do anything else. And then also the school. Every school has to meet the goals established by sections 2 and 3 of the law. And someone's saying, what on earth is section 2 and 3? Section 2 deals with student capacities. And the General Assembly said that our public education system should allow and assist all students to have the following capacities. Now, I won't read them verbatim, but let me skim over them a little bit. First of all of our students should have communication skills, okay? That they should have knowledge to make economic, social, and political choices. They should have an understanding of governmental processes, that they should have sufficient self-knowledge and knowledge of his mental and physical wellness, sufficient grounding in the arts to enable each student to appreciate his or her heritage, sufficient preparation to choose and pursue his life's work, and skills to enable him to compete favorably with students in other states. And again, I said globally also. Then there were 6 goals, that's section 3, that all schools should do this. Now that's what we're working for. We want students that can has all of those, students need all those capabilities or capacities, and then also schools shall expect a high level of achievement of all students. Okay, that's a goal that the state has said that we've got to do. That's actually in the law. Schools shall develop students' abilities, and again, it's talking about communication and math skills and becoming a self-sufficient individual, and there are about 6 different things. Also, schools have got to increase the rate of school attendance, reduce student dropout and retention rates, and schools shall reduce physical and mental health barriers to learning, And that's what the state says. These goals and those capacities, that's what a site-based decision-making council, that's what we're there for. So that all relates to what? Student achievement and setting policies. Again, the daily workings of a school. For instance, if the heating or air conditioning is out of whack, that's still my ultimate responsibility. But the school council can certainly be a sounding board and sometimes just a support basis, which they have been.
Mr. Royce, let's get back for one more question, at least on the ungraded primary unit.
Mm-hmm.
You were talking a moment ago about there might be a third grade level student who could read better than the other students.
Yes, sir.
Suppose you have somebody in the third grade that can read or do math or some other subject beyond the primary unit level. What happens? What do you do? How do you handle that, if you know?
Well, of course, there's been a lot of discussion about that. We have been working on our needs assessment at the council, and one topic that comes up a lot is the need to extend learning opportunities for exceptional students, for gifted students, if you will. While not being able to be specific about it, the exciting thing about the primary is that it does not limit with a certain primer or with a certain Alice and Jerry or with a certain level of math. There are all types of ways as we get into the primary that we'll be able to extend learning opportunities to keep up the level of learning that a child is capable of doing. Certainly, I do not feel like, I guess what I'm trying to say is that the focus of the primary is to give a balanced learning experience. And while a child may exceed in one area and yet needs work in this particular area, we don't want to shortchange them on either end of the stick there.
Very good.
Would you like? I'm a non-professional
Gee, he is
educator
good, though.
here, I
No,
must
but
assure
he is
you,
good.
would you like to expand on that a little bit?
Just a little bit, because as he said, and with doing progress reports and checklists, we are more, or they're more attuned to what students really know, and then also what those little areas are where they may need a little help. You may have a student that is an excellent reader, is reading on, let's say, a 4th or 5th grade level, has a little trouble with spelling. We certainly don't want to leave that spelling out, and you know, we want to help him with that, but also, as he said, we're not locked in anymore. If you're in the 3rd grade, you can only have a 3rd grade reading book. It's not that way anymore. They can read whatever is available. We're trying, and again, we're working through this. It takes a little time. It's a new program, new ideas, and so forth. We use computers a lot of individual instruction with those particular children, working on a learning program just for those children, just as we work on individual learning programs for children with special needs on the other end of the spectrum. Special learning needs children can be those that need special help because they have problems learning, and again, it can be those children that are accelerated. So we need to sort of get a nice balance of each. Also, you have to remember that we need to make all of our children well-rounded. They need social skills as well as academic skills, and we do cooperative learning so that one of these days when they get out in the world of work or whatever, they can at least work together. And I think that's a school council. That's one thing that we really worked on, was bonding and working together, and how if we have ideas we can share them and do so appropriately, and how we can even agree to disagree. I think I've got something that I wrote down that I would like to say about non-gradedness. One of the first things that I heard about that, and this really stuck with me, non-gradedness is a vote of confidence in the wisdom of teachers, because who knows best what students need? That teacher that works with them, or teachers that work with them on a day-to-day basis.
That leads me into a question that I want to cover. What does the council do, if anything, in regard to grading the teachers?
To grading the teachers?
Yes. On their abilities and their teaching skills. Does the council have anything to do with that?
I guess You're looking at me like you want me to respond
Oh,
to
I'm
that.
sorry. Okay, I didn't mean to put you. I can
Well, no, no,
respond, but I'll let you.
No, I just we're not far enough into it, I guess, being so involved in the policy aspect of it, and getting the school year started off. We have not looked at the evaluation process as a council.
No.
Well, are you going to do that?
I really think that probably not directly. Again, the achievement of students will relate to that to some extent. Teachers are still evaluated by the building principal. I mean, there's a process, a policy that is written by our local school board that we adhere to, and I really don't think school councils will. That's not even one of the areas of responsibility that we can, or that a council would get into, is evaluation of teachers. Indirectly, though, student achievement does reflect, to a certain extent, your quality of teachers. But at South Green, we don't have anything to worry about, I don't think, do we, Henry?
We're dealing with the bottom line. We're dealing with student achievement. It's just like operating a business, and you're trying to maintain a bottom line, and our goal is that student achievement level, and whether it involves certain curriculum concerns which we can elect to undertake, or whether it involves allocation of school space or other areas of concentration, our whole focus comes back to not anything other than student achievement. And obviously, that's where all of the evaluation that we will be doing will fall into category-wise.
So the council will have nothing, if I'm understanding you now, the council's not going to have anything at all to do with rating or grading teachers.
That's not one of the areas of responsibility that they could even choose to do.
Let's get back to the curriculum. You were talking about that when we got a question. I'd like to get back to the curriculum. Do you have a policy committee dealing with the curriculum for the school?
In the infancy of site-based decision-making statewide, and certainly at South Green, one of the things that we are doing in setting up the council, part of this, I guess, paperwork or procedures that we must go through to get started, is to, first of all, understand and address the mandatory functions of the council. There are 22 permissive functions of the council, which we can undertake various areas of responsibility. We could choose to undertake all 22 of them.
Pardon me a minute. Who determined the 22 permissive areas?
Determined them?
Who determined that?
This particular document was something that is actually addressed in the CARA.
Yes, in CARA, and then of course our board
and our
policy.
board adopted it or carried it on through.
They relist those so that they are areas of responsibility that we can choose.
So your local board has determined those 22
but they're also
areas.
in the,
they're options, yes. They are options.
They are in the CARA law, though, saying
Yes.
that a council may choose to address these areas.
It's everything, and the very first one, as you bring it up, is determine curriculum. That is including needs assessment, curriculum development, alignment with state standards, technology utilization, and program appraisal. That all falls under the heading of curriculum. And I'm not going to read them all here, but assign instructional and non-instructional staff time, determine the use of school space, determine instructional materials and student support services. These are options again. As a council, we are still very much involved in determining in writing our policy, and then determining what functions of these 22 that are at our option, which of these 22 we really need to address as the council at South Green, which is the beauty of CARA. Of this 22, the 3 or 4 that we might choose, or however many, may not be the 3 or 4 that another school in this district needs to choose. We may have a particular problem at South Green that we need to begin to work on now, and we can choose that as an area of concern that we will address, whereas at Happy Valley or at E.B. Terry, their council, when they come into play, may not even consider the things we consider important. as something they need to declare as an option, which is, like I say, it really does manage the bottom line in a more localized, more specific sense.
Let's assume that of the 22 areas, you adopt 4 of them, just as an assumption. Does that mean that the other areas, insofar as Green Street Elementary is concerned, is left to the school board?
Yes.
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 That we will just, and in fact, in writing those up and addressing them, we will say, something to the effect of that South Green wishes this year concerning school space that we use the adopted school board policy, the way that it is already, which is what we've sort of done anyway, because we're waiting. What we're doing right now, we have a needs assessment committee that was formed parents, and they sent out, and in fact this Wednesday they're going to give us a report on what our parents said they felt like were the most important needs at South Green Elementary. Also, we had a needs assessment committee. The teachers did a needs assessment, and they're going to give a report on what they felt like were the needs of our school, and then from there, as a council, we will address or accept those responsibilities that as parent group and as a teacher group, they said, hey, these are areas you need to work on.
And in our state training, both the state Department of Education and the Jefferson County people specifically said, don't take on too much at first.
Mm-hmm.
Suppose you select one of the options, and you take some action under that option, and the board all of a sudden says that's not within that option. Where do we go from there?
Well, anytime that there is anything that we look at, there are about 3 different little books we drag into every meeting. One of them are all of the Kentucky laws concerning school. We have that as a ready reference. Also, we also have our school board policy in there. We have to operate in the confines of those. We can't go outside the law, whether it's school board policy or state law, and we certainly wouldn't intend to do that.
I believe we have another question.
Okay. I have 2 questions that I would like to ask. One is, will the children have the same home-based teachers for the next 3 years, or will they rotate to different teachers after each year? And my second question is, how have the parents of the children that are involved in this program responded over the last 9 weeks of school, from the first grade parents to the third grade parents, and especially the third grade parents, being they are the top of the line? How are they being educated? Are they growing with this experience, or is it holding them back? And I was just wondering if the parents felt they were gaining from it, or if it was beneficial to them.
2 good
and
questions.
Those are my 2 questions.
Two good questions there, and I think Mr. Royse ought to answer the one about the parents, since he is the parents' representative, and then Mrs. Kingery can answer the question about the homeroom and whether you'll have the same teachers. Mr. Royse.
Well, when we're talking about the primary, there are some concerns about it, but there are also some, I guess, shall we say, with how young as we are into it, I've heard many good things about the primary. I suppose it's the squeaky wheel and the grease syndrome. I've heard some of the concerns the same about the difference in ages. It's a new experience for the first graders being in the classroom anyway, and when they're in there with some of the third graders who are at a more advanced level, that has seemed to be a concern. I have heard less and less of that as school has progressed, which you would, I guess, assume to happen, because as the first graders who were not at that level, probably in being around those who are more advanced, are learning at a more accelerated level. So while I have heard concerns about ungraded, I have heard concerns about how are we going to know their progress, and I have heard concerns about the fact that not everybody is on the same level. I feel like that there remains overall an open mind to the primary, with this being the pilot program and with this being certainly something new to everyone involved, faculty, administration, students, and parents. And for it to work, I think when we talked, we had a meeting at South Green about the ungraded primary, and one of the cautions by some of the faculty who were going to undertake it was that parents need to be patient, need to give it some time, and you will see that while maybe at first it will appear to be sluggish in getting started, that the levels of achievement and the accelerated learning will certainly prove to be a positive aspect of the primary.
Would you say the majority of the parents seem to be patient and approve the system?
Yes, I would, because I have not talked to anyone who just adamantly does not like it. Bearing in mind, at the same time, it's still an option at South Green. We have traditional classrooms that are doing some things. So while to say that the parents are patient, we also must throw in that this year it was an option.
Now, Mrs. Kingery, can you quickly answer about the
Yes,
teachers?
quickly. At the meeting where parents were informed about what we were planning to do, the statement was made by the teachers that students will remain with their same home-based teacher. But again, they group for different activities. They group sometime based on interest level, sometime on ability level. So they're working with several teachers, but their home-based teacher will remain the same.
Now, quickly again, and there are many subjects we could still address on this, and we are surely running out of time, but very quickly. What about discipline? What does the council have to do with discipline? I realize, to help you out, I realize that there is a discipline code that is adopted by the board. Now, can you add to that, or can you change that code in any way? Insofar as you know, Mr. Royse.
Discipline is one of the optional areas of the 22 areas that we can get into.
Have you selected, that is, your council selected that option area yet?
We have not declared any areas of option, but I can say that in the council meetings that does appear to be one of the areas that we may well get into at South Green.
Now, Mrs. Kingery, if you get into it, can you add to or detract either or both from the policy that's adopted by the school board?
Yes, we can, because there again we can, to a certain extent, make our own policy for South Green. We're not going to do anything out of the realm of that's already in place by our school board. Again, we have to work within that umbrella effect, but we need to refine and maybe define more specifically some discipline procedures that we would like to maybe have in place at South Green Elementary, keeping in mind that board policy goes all the way from K through 12, and that's that encompasses a lot of students and a lot of different type of discipline problems. Not discipline problems. I like to refer to it as school management. I think that's what we're going to work on.
Now, each one of you very quickly, for maybe 30 seconds apiece, what, based on your experience so far and your training and what you know about it, what, in your opinion, is essential to make the council or the school-based management system work? Mr. Royse.
Well, the jury is still out on the Kentucky Education Reform Act. I feel like that while folks have concerns about it, a lot of people, a lot of parents are aware that education is changing in Kentucky. For school-based decision management to work at South Green, we need to have the element that we talked about in the primary. We need to have some patience, because by the law we're required to get a lot of, I guess you'll call it, red tape underway before we can truly function as a full-blown council.
Mrs. Kingery.
Okay, quickly. You want me to do this quickly? I've got one closing statement, and I think this is something that in regard to the school council or the non-graded primary, keep this in mind. Nothing could be done at all if a man waited until he could do it so well that no one could find fault with it. And you're going to find some fault with some things that we're doing. Share your concerns with us, and we are a school that likes to listen.
Each of you has been an excellent panel member. The time has flown. I think you thought it might not, but you found that it has. We appreciate your coming. Each of you is very informed. Thank you very much, and good evening.